For more than a decade, Lionel Messi terrorized Real Madrid. When he left La Liga, their fans breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the nightmare was over. But on October the 26th, 2024, the Bernabeu witnessed the birth of a new one. His name, Lamine Yamal. At just 17 years old, the Barcelona Wonderking did the unthinkable, silencing 80,000 haters and etching his name into El Clasico history. But how did a teenager pull off the impossible? To understand, we need to go back to the beginning. It's been over 20 years since Lionel Messi joined Barcelona and nearly 4 years since he left. The impact he had on the club will never be repeated again. Since he left, Barcelona still hasn't been able to fill in the hole he left behind. Scouts are constantly looking for the next Messi, a young spark that can re-energize the side. Lamine Yamal is only 17 years old, but he has the weight of an entire football club resting on his shoulders. Fans and pundits alike believe that with his talent, he could be the dream player Barcelona has been searching for. Yet, despite this immense pressure on such a young mind, Yamal keeps his cool. One of the biggest games of his life looms over the horizon. He's about to head to Madrid. Take a moment to think about the most prominent fixtures in football. Thought of fierce local rivalries like the North London Derby in England, or the Milan Derby between Inter and AC Milan. Many will have thought of massive historically titled deciding clashes like Manchester United against Liverpool or Bayern versus Dortmund. One thing's for sure though, everyone thought of El Clasico. It's hard to overstate how massive this game is when Barcelona faces off against Real Madrid. The whole world tunes in to see the spectacle. Two clubs that have put together the best teams the world has ever seen, battling it out for 90 minutes for dominance. What more could you want? All too often, the players for both sides are at the heart of this fiery fixture. Messi showed his shirt to the Bernabeu crowd after scoring a last-minute winner. Ronaldo pointed to the Camp Nou pitch and told the fans, "Karma, karma." Safe to say, the players know just how much this game means to the fans. Those were the old days. Fast forward to 2024 and the teams are ready for another El Clasico. Yamal, who's not even old enough to drink or drive in Spain, takes a deep breath as he readies himself for one of the biggest games of his life. He's already a talent with a bright future, but a good performance in this fixture could catapult him to stardom. But before his story unfolds, we have to understand just how much weight there is behind this fixture. How much history, culture, passion, and politics are behind Spain's biggest football match. The truth is, it isn't just a match. El Clasico is a war, and Lamine Yamal is one of the most important soldiers on the front line. We have to go all the way back to 1902 to find the first time Barcelona and Real Madrid first faced each other. That's over 120 years of deep-rooted hatred. While the levels of both clubs haven't always been the same throughout history, the cultural aspects they represent have always been central to their fans' identities. Real Madrid is the most successful club in Spanish history, bar none. The club's fans boast that Real is a symbol of Spanish national pride, and they're not wrong. Real, just like the name suggests, has historically had strong ties to the Spanish royal family, and more generally, the ruling political establishment, both in good times and bad. If Real were a drink, they'd be a classic Manhattan. Vintage, classy, tried and tested, an all-round classic that never gets old and has proven its worth for many decades, but with a strong taste. Barcelona represents the complete opposite. While Real shines a light on the country's capital, Barcelona fans take pride in their regional Catalonian heritage. They've historically stood against the political establishment that Real fans uphold and promote a vision of Spain breaking away from the shackles of its past and looking towards the future. It's no surprise that one of Barra's mottos is more than a club to them. Barcelona is a home of Catalonian, defiance against imperialism and centralism. If Barcelona were a drink, they'd be a margarita, spicy, fresh, and always looking to blow you away with something innovative, but just as volatile as they are fun. Considering how long this rivalry has been around and how much of Spain's cultural heritage hinges on this fixture, the men playing for both teams become symbols of their respective political sides. No other player is more representative of the heart of Barcelona than Lamine Yamal. Most 17-year-old boys only have to worry about school or video games. Yamal has the hopes and dreams of an entire region on his back. While Real often recruits elite players from all over the world, Barcelona prides itself on developing local talent at its prestigious La Masia Academy. Yamal is next in the list of top players who have come through its doors. Could he be one of the best players to come out of La Masia? What do you think? A stellar performance here proves to the world that such an approach can yield amazing results. Not only that, but as a boy with both Moroccan and Spanish heritage, Yamal is a symbol of modern multicultural Spain looking to the future. But this day isn't just crucial from the club's perspectives, it's also Yamal's opportunity to prove himself as the next big thing in world football. See, Yamal had already made quite a name for himself over the summer. Barcelona fans knew this kid had something special, but it was only when he put in absolutely stellar performances for Spain at the Euros that the rest of the continent took a closer look at him. How could you not, after seeing this absolute wonder goal he bagged against France to see Spain go into the final, all this while still wearing braces? Funnily enough, Yamal would be walking onto a pitch, jeered by Real fans who only a few months ago were singing his praises as he fought for Spain's honour. International football isn't the same as club football, however. Club football is harsher, more demanding, and requires a cool, mature head to thrive in. More than a few wonder kids have been swallowed up by the pressure, and El Clasico is the ultimate test of composure when the chips are down. Good news? This isn't Yamal's first rodeo. The previous 23-24 season, he'd actually faced off against Real 3 times, twice in La Liga, once in Supercopa de España. Bad news? Barcelona had lost all 3 matches. At the Bernabeu, Real came close from behind twice to win the game 3-2. At Camp Nou, Barca suffered a nasty 2-1 loss, and in the Supercopa, Real slaughtered them 4-1. Real are also on a massive 42-game unbeaten run in the league at this point. A victory or a draw would see them match Barcelona's historic 43-game run set back in 2017-2018. Barca fans pray to the heavens that they can whip out a win and from taking away one of their greatest achievements. The silver lining is that Barcelona have got off to a roaring start this 24-25 season under their new manager, Hansi Flick. They've racked up 10 wins from 12 in La Liga, including some massive wins sprinkled in there. 7-0 against Real Vola against Villarreal, 5-0 against Sevilla. Real, on the other hand, had shown some early signs of struggling, despite their huge Champions League and La Liga win the previous season. For this El Clasico, Barcelona fans are hoping for a much better showing. Yamal had featured in these previous games, but this is the first El Clasico where the fans are banking on him putting in a monster performance at the Bernabeu. For good reason too. The kid has scored 6 and assisted 6 in just 12 games going into the fixture. All he has to do is keep up that red-hot form and greatness could easily be his. Still, starting a 17-year-old in a massive match like this, away from home, is a massive call for Flick to make. When the Barca fans look at their phones and see his name in the starting lineup, they let out a cheer. Could this be the year Yamal approaches the plate and handles the pressure? The two teams walk out onto the Bernabeu pitch. A sea of white shirts greets them from the stands. The crowds roar, blocking out all other sounds. The moment of truth has come. Another El Clasico that could change the course of Spanish football forever is about to begin. The opening whistle blows, and the Bernabeu erupts with sound. Real lead an attack from the word go to try and break Barcelona's defense. When you play at home in a big derby, you want to capitalize on the early momentum. Unfortunately for them, Mbappe is caught offside in the first 2 minutes of the match. This is something that's going to happen a lot in this match. Barcelona withstands the pressure. Real win a few corners but have nothing to show for their efforts after the first 10 minutes. Suddenly, Lewandowski catches the ball with a backheel flick as it flies at him from the backline. He sends it beautifully over the Real defense and Yamal makes a lung-busting run to get on the end of it. Yamal has to fight off Mendy and manages to get a shot off at goal, but Lunan makes a comfortable save. Real fans breathe a sigh of relief, but Yamal's already showing his hunger. Only 10 minutes later, and 2 offside calls for Mbappe later, the youngster shows off his talent again by leading a Barca attack. He lays it off for Rafinha outside the box, but the Brazilian sends it just a little too high. At the 30th minute, Real fans see a sliver of hope shine through. Mbappe finally drives through the Barcelona defense, chips the keeper and puts it in the back of the net. The white wall of Real Ultras behind the goal goes nuts. To the Barcelona fans in the ground, it seems like another El Clasico defeat is on the table. But then, VAR. The goal is disallowed for Mbappe, being offside by a very, very small margin. The scoreline is back to 0-0 and everything's still to play for. The rest of the game plays out without a goal, but Yamal continues to show off his prowess both on and off the ball. He's quick and is finding through balls to his teammates. That gives them plenty of space. When he gets the ball, he tries to take on the defenders in front of him, often causing them all kinds of trouble with his silky smooth dribbling skills. Remember, all of this is coming from a 17-year-old up against hardened, experienced defenders who won not just La Liga, but the Champions League only a few months ago. The fact that this young teenager is able to give veteran defenders with plenty of El Clasico wins under their belt tells you everything you need to know about Yamal's mentality. He plays with the youthful energy of a teenager, but the sharp mind of a world-class legend. The halftime whistle blows, and real fans start to worry about this kid. They know he's good from seeing him at the Euros, but as he combines with the legend Lewandowski, it's like they're playing against lions. Things could get ugly if Real don't get a handle on things soon, but the second half doesn't prove any easier for Real. Yamal comes out swinging. He takes a wild shot 35 yards out from goal, not dissimilar to the wonder strike he scored against France over the summer, and forces a save from the Real keeper. Real are feeling the heat, and Barcelona have no intention of cooling things down. 2 minutes later, the dam breaks. A superb ball from Casado cuts through the Real midfield and gives Lewandowski the chance to put it away. Naturally, he does with an ice-cold finish, 1-0 to Barcelona at the Bernabeu. Yamal rushes over to his teammate and mentor, the first to celebrate with him like they just won the World Cup. Things turned from bad to worse for Real, as Louis bags a second goal just 2 minutes after his first. A perfect cross into the box from Balde, coupled with some shocking defending from Real, give the Polish striker the space for a beautiful header. The Real defense, exhausted from having to keep up with Yamal and Lewandowski's crisp 1-2 plays, hang their heads in shame. They manage to group up and fight back, putting a bit of pressure on Barcelona with some decent offensive plays. Mbappe even puts the ball in the back of the net again, but as usual, he's offside. After 20 or so minutes though, it's clear to everyone in the stadium which team is going to win the game. Yamal has had a brilliant performance so far, but he's dying to cap it off with a goal. That would turn a great win into a legendary one. In the 77th minute, Rafinha presses the Real backline and wins the ball. Yamal sees his chance. Together, they run forward and Rafinha lays it off for the youngster on the right side of the box. Mendy positions himself to cut off the pass to Lewandowski, who's drifting into the box, ready for his hat-trick. But Mendy doesn't expect what's about to happen next. He's given Yamal too much space. Rather than square it to his teammate, he simply takes one touch, then blasts it into the top right corner of the Real goal. It's an absolute wonder strike. The Barcelona fans lose their minds. Yamal casually strolls across the white wall of Real Ultras to the corner and points to himself, then the ground. "This is my home," he tells the residents of the Bernabeu, eerily similar to Ronaldo's Karma celebration at the Camp Nou back in 2011-2012. To top it all off and really get under the Real fan skin, Yamal turns around and points at the back of his shirt. Lamine Yamal, number 19, an image that is seared into the minds of all Royal fans to this very day. It's an absolute humiliation. Royal have no juice left in them for the comeback, 3-0 down in their own ground to their arch rivals. It's well and truly over for Los Blancos. Barcelona keep up the pressure, and it's a miracle Yamal, who's feeding ball after ball to his teammates, doesn't end up with an assist by the end of the match. Rafinha puts one away to make it 4-0. The final nail in the coffin is hammered away. Real are buried, Barcelona are triumphant. It's rare for a teenager to show such composure. Skill and fight in a professional top-flight game to do so in an old classical fixture against a ruthless Real side. Putting your name on the score sheet to top it all off is the stuff of legends. Yael has excelled everyone's expectations. Which of these 4 goals was your favourite? Let's know in the comments below. Now, Real fans in the stadium were definitely in a sulky mood given the thrashing they just received, but something changed when they watched Yamal play against them. They had expected a fierce but rash, talented teenager who might give them some trouble, but they also had confidence that their defenders would be able to clamp him down. What they saw instead shocked them. A clinical genius who plays well beyond his years. That's when many of them turned to the guy sitting beside them in the stands and said, "This kid won't be a great player in the future. He already is one." Anyone who had even the tiniest sliver of doubt about Yamal's potential now sat down in the Bernabeu seats, quiet and humbled. In fact, by the end of their most recent game in the Supercopa de España, where Barcelona once again thrashed them 5-2, the only noise coming from the Real fans were boos and whistles for their own team. Don Carlo simply said, "We deserve it. It's a wake-up call from the fans. They're pushing us." But there's too much focus on Real's defeat, not enough on Barcelona's victory. There's no doubt in anyone's minds that Lamine Yamal is destined for greatness. The question isn't how far will he go, but rather, who can possibly stop him? It's hard to overstate how much of a shock to the system this game was, not just for Real Madrid, but the entire footballing world. Unbeaten runs do eventually come to an end, but most of the time, the unbeaten team loses by a small margin away. It's a tough ground. What doesn't usually happen is a 4-0 thrashing at home with the kids still in secondary school destroying of a title-winning side. Trophies and history aside, that's always going to leave a bad mark. The proof is clear to see. Even Don Carlo, normally cool as ice in the tensest moments, lost his head after Rafinha scored the 4th. He got into a heated argument with Hansi Flick and the Barcelona bench, claiming that one of the staff members celebrated Fatu enthusiastically, let's say. The Spanish media came out with very harsh criticism for the Real players and Ancelotti after the game. Outlets noticed how little impact star midfielder Jude Bellingham had on the game, saying how he was a shadow of a player, and calling out Ancelotti for playing him in more of a defensive position rather than his usual attacking setup. Memes spread all over the internet, making fun of Mbappé for being caught offside 8 times during the match. Keep this stat in mind because his performance compared with Yamal's has a much deeper meaning than people might realise when first looking at the game. So, the media tore Ray out to pieces for their shocking performance, fans were well and truly humbled, and the rest of the world looked on in disbelief. But the real focus needs to be on Barcelona. The star-studded conquerors, with one young lad in particular taking centre stage. Lewandowski took home the Player of the Match award at the end of the 90 minutes, but both fans and the media simply couldn't stop talking about the front line. Lewandowski put in a brilliant performance, of course, but everyone knew he was world-class stepping into the game. No, the spotlight was firmly set on Lamine Yamal, the 17-year-old who had just wrecked Real at the Bernabeu. As you'd expect, pundits gave Yamal his flowers. Klinsmann laid a heap of praise on him and the other Barcelona youngsters for handling the intense pressure of the match. He loved the way Yamal didn't crumble under the initial pressure of the first half, where Real showed much more fight and managed to hit back hard in the second half to win the game. Pundits also noticed how brave it was for the Barcelona side to play with a very high line against Real. It's incredibly risky, as even one player dropping off can lead to a clinical side capitalizing, but the Barca players, including Yamal, stayed composed and tracked back perfectly every time. Perhaps the most important takeaway from that game, however, is the cultural victory Barcelona gained over their arch-rivals. As experts pointed out, 8 La Masia Academy graduates featured in the team, and 8 La Masia Academy graduates demolished Real in their own backyard. For Barca fans, it was proof that their homegrown developed talents were still relevant compared to Real's international stars, better even. Nowhere is this felt more than in the comparison between Mbappe and Yamal. The Frenchman's transfer from Real to PSG had been a massive story all throughout the previous year, with him finally joining the club on a free after much drama. He was the man who had scored a hat-trick in the World Cup final for his country, the one shining light keeping PSG afloat in the Champions League. Many consider him to be the best forward in the world. Yamal, meanwhile, was quietly developing in the background, honing his skills and learning the beautiful game. When push came to shove and the two faced off, it wasn't the world-class 25-year-old superstar striker who won, but the 17-year-old kid from La Masia. Hansi Flick had managed to set Barcelona up in a way that got the very best out of his academy graduates, and Yamal was the crown jewel of the project. He doesn't play like a 17-year-old kid, pundits said after the match. It's incredible. It was especially relieving for Flick and the team, given how much flack they'd received over the summer. With a new manager leading the way and a crop of unproven youngsters featuring in the first team, rival fans and pundits had plenty of doubts. Looks like Real will walk the league again this year, many thought. Then, in the first 10 games of the season, they won 9 and lost 1. Barcelona showed off their prowess and went to the Bernabeu believing in themselves. Yamal, despite his age, showed that he had an inner belief that few players could build. The win over Madrid made it 10 wins in 11 and put them 6 points clear at the top of La Liga table. Opinions changed just like that. Real Madrid were no longer favourites to win La Liga. With a huge victory, everyone bet on Barcelona. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. A big derby win is always lovely for the fans, but things in football can change on a dime. After that game, Barcelona went on to only win 2 games and dropped 6 points in 6 matches. Far from the title-winning form that many pundits thought they were on. Worse still, Real brushed themselves down, learned from their mistakes and went on a bit of a run, winning 6 and dropping points in only 2 matches overall. At the time of writing, Real are 2 points in the lead of Barcelona in the table. Never take anything for granted in football. Anything can happen. Who do you think will take home the league title this year? Can Barcelona pull themselves out of this slump, or will Real find their form again? Or is it finally Atletico's time to shine as the two giants fumble? Let us know below. Still, doom and gloom aside, the late 2024 El Clasico victory still has a very deep meaning for Barca fans and Spanish football as a whole. Barcelona stuck to their principles and played their classic tiki-taka way. The trust Flick put into Yamal paid off massively as the team flourished with him in the side, embodying the values the club holds dear. Yamal's stellar performance proved a couple of points to the world. First and foremost, he broke the stigma surrounding young players in top-level competitions. Many fans figured a teenager would be far too rash, hot-headed, and arrogant to feature in such a high-pressure fixture. Surely there's no way a kid barely old enough to drive can beat defenders with years of experience under their belts. Yamal flipped that perception on its head. He and the management team showed that physical experience isn't everything. It can be trumped by keen game intelligence and fluid movements. Yamal stayed composed, despite all the assumptions from rival fans and haters that he would lose his cool because of his age. Lessons learned: never judge someone, be it in football or real life, solely on their age. You never know who will shock you. Second, Yamal's incredible game was also a victory for the vibrant modern Spanish youth. Spain has changed a lot since the early 20th century. New identities and groups have formed, and many families are now of mixed heritage, Moroccan, Spanish in particular. Being of Moroccan and Spanish descent himself, Yamal's victory is a victory for the Spaniards looking to the future, proving that they can be the face of their home country just as much as anyone else. It's also a matter of pride. You don't need to look all over the world for an elite talent. You can find it next door. Finally, this El Clasico win put Yamal right in the spotlight as a global cultural icon. Advertisements for La Liga now feature the kid front and center, even more so than before. Sure, Yamal has gained recognition for his incredible Euros performances, but he still took a backseat to the superstars La Liga is famous for hosting, Mbappe or even Lewandowski being the hottest two at the time. This match made a 17-year-old kid with a bright smile showing off his braces the face of Spanish football. This El Clasico was far more than just a heated derby match for the Real and Barca fans. The future of not just football, but the entire cultural identity of the country hung in the balance. For Real, it was a bitter defeat the club won't soon forget. For Barcelona, it was more than a victory, it was a statement. We're the future, it says, and we're here to stay. Football can be like a mirror of real life, a reflection of the values and lessons we hold dear. Sport often teaches us things about ourselves, some good, some bad. It's important to take home the lessons that shape us into better people, both in victory and defeat. The story of this El Clasico, particularly viewed from the lens of your mouth zone development, is one with a crucial moral football fans should take to heart. Going into this fixture, there were a number of preconceptions people had about the youngster and young players in general. Yamal is good, but he's still just a kid. Teenagers can't handle the pressure of big games. Young players need experience to hone their skills. Yamal is overrated. He can't take the atmosphere of the Bernabeu. Less than 2 hours later, Yamal flipped all of those notions on their heads and proved every hater in the stadium wrong. He didn't live in the rivals' criticism or let them limit his growth, nor did he diminish his potential due to his age. Yamal knew he had it in him to play like a world-class vet and just did it. Common knowledge be damned. His performance sent shockwaves across the world, and you're starting to see the impact already. Young players are taking more and more responsibilities in top teams. Look at the most recent North London derby, a fierce match between Arsenal and Tottenham in the English Premier League. Despite the fixture being one of the most high-pressure games in the league, 3 18-year-olds played. Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall for Tottenham and Miles Lewis-Skelly for Arsenal. All three put in top performances, with Lewis-Skelly being a clear candidate for player of the match. When Lewis-Skelly walked off the pitch, the Arsenal fans gave him a standing ovation. He roared at the crowd, and they roared back. All this in his debut season, only playing because of the injuries to the fullbacks in front of him. A homegrown London talent showing the grit and resilience of a veteran international. Sound familiar? The key lesson to take away from all of this is simple. Never let yourself be caged by others' preconceptions. Push yourself, challenge your personal limits and the limits society has put on you. Potential really has no limit. Break people's expectations. If Lamine Yamal can do it, why can't you? If you want to follow the story of the 36-year-old player with no pace or skill and still outscored everyone, check out our video here.